In a world where tomorrow's blockbusters reign,
Three millennials look back on our generation's classics
on our generation's classics,
and remember.
Hey everyone, welcome to Millennials in the Movie House, the podcast where three friends watch our generation's beloved movies of yesterday and review them from our modern adult perspective. I'm Betsy.
I'm Tracy.
And Serena has strep. So she is
Yeah.
not with us today.
She's had a run of bad luck.
She has. Oh man, but nope, she will be missed. She will be back next week. But
I think the thing that will bother her most is that we made her watch a scary movie.
I know. And let me tell you, her texting, she was texting us as she was watching it, and she was like, I could feel the anger. I could feel the hatred coming through, being like, how dare you? How dare you make me watch this movie? That's okay. So yeah, we watched a horror movie this week, Final Destination from 2000, period. The year 2000.
So we decided to pick movies for our last couple of the year, and this was my pick. And can I just say, I'm going to start out with a fun fact, Bets.
Okay.
And this is a fun fact that is the first fact that jumps up when you research anything of this movie. And it's so perfectly fitting because this script was originally supposed to be an episode of the X-Files.
I saw that. The second I saw that, I'm like, oh Tracy, this is
I honestly
favorite
had
little tidbit.
No idea, but this is one of my favorite horror movies when I was younger,
and it makes sense.
Makes total sense.
Makes sense.
I can get more into it later, but anyway.
There was another show on his filmography, the writer's filmography, that I was like, oh, okay. And I can't remember what it was now.
I don't have this writer written down.
It's the same as the director. Oh, let me run through.
Yeah. Sorry. Yeah,
okay.
I interrupted.
Yep. Nope, that's okay. So Final Destination 2000, written by James Wong, Glenn Morgan, and Jeffrey Reddick, and directed by James Wong. And I keep on wanting to say Wan because that's a big horror guy, and I'm like, no, it's James Wong.
So Redrick. He's the original.
Redrick, whatever. Anyway, go ahead.
He's the original script person.
Okay.
And he was submitting it for the X-Files, and
okay.
And they were like, that's a good idea, but I think we want to make this into its own thing. Good thing they did. It made like an entire franchise. And
it's
I read somewhere.
Going.
Yeah. I think a new one's out either this year or next year, I think. And it's one of the like top, top earning series or something like that. Franchises.
Yeah.
And it was one of the ones where like the sequels actually were earning more money, which was unusual.
I'm not surprised about. And it's because you're not following characters, you're following a concept. And that concept never gets old. No. It doesn't get stale. I mean, they tried the obvious comparison are other horror movies like Friday the 13th, but at the same time, you are following a certain character with that. This is such a cerebral concept that they put into a horror movie. It's so
and at
good.
one iteration of it, they did consider making death a character. And they were like, no, we don't want it to be a Mike Myers. We don't want it to be, we want it to be that
shadow.
Yeah.
And it's interesting because I feel like they would have gone a different direction had they made this movie 20 years later, or they have made this movie 20 years later, but they are kind of, I don't want to say they're stuck in the concept, but they've set the rules. They've set the ground rules in this first movie so well. But yeah. Anyway, okay.
So
let's
he was the one that wrote the original one, and they brought in James Wong and Glenn Morgan. And they were the writers of X-Files.
Oh,
and I think at least with one of them, this was their first like feature film or something.
That makes sense.
Yeah. And they kind of made it cohesive.
Okay, I got you. All right, back to the starring. No, it's totally fine. That's what your job is.
Mm.
All right, so starring our beloved Devon Sawa,
Yay.
Ali Larder, Kerr Smith,
But it could be Care.
Kristen
Dawson's Creek.
Cloak. Yeah. Who else is on there? Chad Donella, Sean William Scott, etc., etc.
I feel like this was. I feel like even though he played the dumb character, he wasn't quite as dumb as his other characters. He was genuine. I feel
he
like.
was genuine. That is the exact word I've applied to him, because I actually, the closest other role of his that I compared this role to was, we're talking about Sean William Scott, everybody. I don't know if is Goon. Have you seen Goon?
That's the hockey one, right? I haven't.
Where the movie itself is very comedic, and he ends up being comedic, but his character is very sincere, and you can't help but just love him because he's such a sweet guy. And I got that sense from this character. It's a very sincere character, especially when he is just coming off of American Pie, right?
Yeah. When did that come out? What year?
99, wasn't it?
Oh yeah. Okay.
Which is such a ridiculous movie and character and everything, which I've actually never seen, but that's okay. Anyway, quick synopsis. Betsy, go. So I don't know. Serena's not here. I'm winging it.
I like it. You like surprised yourself. You're putting
I know. I
in
was
your
like,
face.
all right, well, it's a 50-50 shot. So there is a high school trip that is going to Paris. First off, what kind of high school takes a French class trip
or whatever it was?
Paris, but whatever. And our main character, Alex, has a premonition that the plane is going to explode. And so he freaks out and he gets thrown off the plane with a small number of other classmates and one teacher. And sure enough, the plane explodes. And so it's basically, the movie follows these survivors as they're all kind of picked off one by one. It's kind of like fate correcting itself. They all should have died on the plane crash. And so now these freak accidents all are starting to occur to kill them off one by one. Our main character, Alex, kind of finds a pattern. So he tries to prevent some of the deaths, etc., etc. Have a little bit of a love interest in Clear, not Claire. Her name is Clear.
I think it's Clear
Rivers.
Water. Oh, Rivers. Okay, yeah.
And he one of the survivors is like his arch nemesis, who has a lot of anger issues for no reason. So that's the very basic synopsis. See how quickly I went with that, because we're going to be diving into it so much. So it's fine.
I like it.
So have you seen? You've seen this movie many times, or just like, do you remember watching it when you were a kid?
I think I've seen it a couple times, but maybe I've just seen it like the series, because there were things in that I thought happened in the first one, because I remember Devon Sawa, that I must have happened in subsequent films.
I don't know if Devon Sawa is in any others.
Right. That's what I mean. It's like, cause I remember him and I remember other things happening. Yeah. So I think I've just meshed all of them up in my head.
That's fair. Because I do know that Ali Larder is in at least the second one. The second one I have seen, because I love, who's the lead guy in the second one?
Oh, I don't know.
Michael Landis. I don't know why I love this guy, but just everything he does, I'm like, you're always the same character and you're always that charming asshole. I'm okay with it. Anyway, so I have seen the second one because it came on the TV and I was like, oh, Michael Landis, let me sit and watch it. I don't think I have ever seen the first one. This is I think this is my first viewing from beginning to end of this movie. And I'm just going to go back to it. The concept really, really held up for me.
Yeah.
And I'm a stickler for that kind of concept.
It's different. It's
different.
It's a little bit butterfly effect, a little bit.
I always put this movie with the butterfly effect.
Yeah.
Which, and you're right, it is different. Butterfly effect deals a little bit more with not time travel, but time manipulation.
Mm-hmm.
more so than this is more about fate manipulation.
Yeah.
But it's that idea that you're attempting to manipulate this concept that nobody has a true grasp on. And they both took place around the same time, and they both were teenage horror or thriller movies.
Yep.
And it was just they were clever.
Yes. Clever. That's what I like. I do like horror, where I think a lot of people don't like horror, and I don't mind the jump scares, but I like to be intrigued. It can't just be like why is this person trying to kill us? It has to have like some sort of purpose behind it.
Yep.
That's why I
I'm
actually
totally
tend
with you.
more towards like hauntings and type of stuff than I
Same.
do like, I don't know.
Because I am curious what the rules are. I'm curious
Yeah.
what the rules are in this particular world. And so help me God, if you do not explain the rules, I'ma be mad.
Yeah.
So, but I think they explained the rules pretty well in this movie.
Yeah.
I was a
'Cause they
little
made it-
nervous they wouldn't, but
They made it kind of a part of the plot where he figures it out. He's like, we were supposed to die in an order. And then
right. And I
Go
will say, like, there was an exposition dump with the mortician, and that kind of was like, oh, we're just taking him at his word, and he just magically has all
So
this information.
there's
But okay.
there's a fan theory, and the writers say it's not true, but I like it. The fan theory is actually that he is death.
I had you got that vibe, and I think a lot of it is just that actor, who's a great actor, by the way, and he was in the original Candyman, and I highly recommend Candyman. It's such a great cult classic. The actor we're referring to, of course, is Tony Todd. That's who it is. But yeah, you definitely get that vibe that like he's otherworldly in some way.
Yep.
So I'm okay with that. I'd totally be okay with that theory.
Yeah.
Yeah. So in comparison to what you remember of it, how does it hold up now? Did you still enjoy this watching?
I did, because I kind of forgot all of how people died.
Yes.
And they were surprising.
Yes.
So I like as much as I like to figure things out, I also like to be surprised.
Absolutely.
So I thought that, I mean, I guess the only thing, there was like a lack of cell phones maybe. And you could tell by some of the clothes. But other than that, you know what I mean? It was still,
it doesn't date
itself kind of,
too
right,
badly.
No.
Yeah.
It still had a pretty good.
I feel like the worst offender in the movie with regards to dating itself is the archetype characters. And really it does go back to the asshole jock. Like that is such a 90s character.
Oh, it is. It's very, very not I guess stereotypes.
Yeah. The ultra
however,
macho, like
I feel like horror movies always have that like Breakfast Club type thing going on, where it's like, okay, here's this like ragtag group of people that wouldn't normally be together. Let's see how they survive. And I'm kind of okay with that.
Yeah. And
because they end up always usually being friends.
You almost
at the end
to use a cookie cutter character so that it's just one extra thing you don't have to spend time explaining to the audience.
Yeah.
The audience is like, oh, this is the asshole jock. Let's move on, because we know what that character is. We don't need to have him explain to us.
I think the only thing they didn't explain was why Devin, what was his name? Alex. Why Alex was having these visions. Did they?
Right.
Okay.
That is the only time. I think the idea, wait a minute, I feel like they did explain it, because early on I was like, are they gonna explain why he was the one? There was something about, because of where he was sitting in the back, he would have been the first to die. And I feel like the mortician did explain, like, there was a reason why there was a muck up, basically.
Yes, which is kind of like why, like, he's like, I changed the pattern so it skipped people. And if you sacrifice yourself for the other person and make it skip, it'll skip a death or something. That made sense. But the original vision,
right? I think that there was like a throwaway line. I'm gonna have to rewatch the movie now.
I know.
I was like a throwaway line where it was this is where it started. This incident was an unusual incident, and he got to see it because he was the first one. If somebody else had been the first one, they would have been the one to see.
Got it. Okay.
But I could be wrong about that. And then the other thing to bear in mind is that Clear said that she got off the plane because she felt his emotion.
Yes.
So if that, I didn't know if that was part of it or if she just was kind of empathic or what was going on with her character. I feel like her character could have been fleshed out better, but
yeah, because she'd had a little bit of a tragic backstory. And she was a little bit eccentric. She was like the artsy type, I guess.
Yeah.
And maybe in Final Destination 2 we'll learn a little bit more about her.
I want to say, from what little I remember, I think she was in Final Destination 2 as like an exposition dump for our and new characters, and I think she was in a mental institution, and that was it. That was all we saw of her, something like that. Or like she ended up in the pattern. You know how in Jumanji,
yes,
the previous players end up in the same game.
Yes. I read this thing and I don't know how truthful it was, but they were like, it was like a controversy of why Devin wasn't in the second or any of the other movies. And they were like, and he denies it being about money. He's like, it wasn't about money. It was about the story. I was supposed to die in the first movie, but then like with that little wrap up at the end, I was like, but you didn't die in the first movie. Yeah. So I was like, I don't quite understand that explanation either. And maybe they explain it in Final Destination 2 that the two boys do eventually. I don't know.
Carter dies, right?
Oh, right. That's right. At the very end. That's right.
But so Carter saved Alex. I don't know.
Right. So then if he saved Alex, then it skipped him and then it went to Carter and then it should have been Allie next. I mean, what is their names? Clear. I don't know.
Right? I don't know.
I don't know. Still,
and that's why, like,
it's a solid movie.
It is, and I like that they endeavored to give us an explanation and a pattern and everything. And I'm like, you know what? You tried hard enough that I'm just gonna trust you. I can't remember what the order was, and then the order got mucked up and people got skipped and blah blah. I'm not gonna play that game.
Yeah,
I trust you.
I did, however, like the realization where he went, I was supposed to be first. Like I liked that because he changed seats. And I do like that first changing fate. Like if you make that one decision that's going to change everything.
Yes.
I do like that.
It's a clever idea. The whole concept is just a clever concept.
Yeah.
And honestly, that's why I'm not even going to ask us our favorite parts, because I think our favorite part is the concept.
It is. That is very true. Yeah.
And I think that's why it's kind of held up still today.
Yep.
22 years later.
Betsy.
Yes.
I'm going to play a game with you.
Oh God.
So, would you agree that you are a little bit of a horror aficionado?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Like I'm not at the level as a lot of people who call themselves that, but
you enjoy horror movies.
Oh, I know where this is going. I already looked it up.
All right. Well, let's see if you can get them all then. So, most of the main cast gets their character names from either horror directors or actors. So, we're going to play a game to see if Betty can get them.
It's tough. This is tough.
It is.
I know I have two. And it's funny because, okay, so before we jump into this game, I know that we referenced this movie when we watched Cat People because of the most famous of the ones you're about to ask, which is Luton.
Yep.
And we talked all about Val Luton and in Cat People. And so that teacher very clearly had that name. Yes. And so she was speaking to another teacher and named Murnau. And I'm like, I know that name. And so sure enough, Murnau is another very famous horror director.
Good job.
I named those two. Boom.
Good job.
Didn't even have to ask for those two.
No, done. Very good. All right. So Devin is Alex Browning.
That's such a normal person name.
Okay. How about his Fred Todd, spelled T-O-D?
With one D. Mm-hmm. And it's German for death. I saw that.
It is, but it's also somebody's name.
Oh, I don't know.
So Todd Browning is the director of Freaks.
Oh, have you ever seen Freaks?
Mm-mm.
Oh my God. I
Is it
could talk
good?
for 3 hours about that movie.
Okay, all right. Terry Chaney, Chaney, Chaney.
Oh, Lon Chaney.
Lon Chaney, good job. Who
Yep.
played the original Phantom in Phantom of the Opera. Speaking of Todd, Todd Wagner, his last name Wagner.
Wagner. Oh, that's an old name.
Yep. It's the Wolf Man. He's the director of the Wolf Man. Yep.
Yes.
Blake Dreyer,
How you spell it?
Dreyer,
Oh, I don't know that one.
is Carl Theodore Dreyer, which is also another horror legend.
Okay.
And then Agent Shrek.
You know, it's funny because that name popped out at me as well, not because it was familiar, but I was like, whose name is Shrek?
I know.
It was weird.
And that's Max Shrek, which is also another like horror legend.
Okay. Okay.
And then of course the whole Todd meaning death thing. So
Yep.
that was all the ones that I had.
I really,
But-
you know what? I love when movies have Easter eggs like that. Like,
Yeah.
you would never think twice about it because they're just names. But for the horror fans, yeah, it's very clear. Some of those names are very clear.
I want to say there was someone named Hitchcock, but I could be wrong.
There wasn't there?
Yeah, I thought there was.
I appreciate that game. That was a fun game. I think
did
I
a good
did
job.
okay.
No, you did.
I think how well I did accurately represents what level of an aficionado I am when it
Yep.
comes to horror.
I would have recognized Hitchcock, and I didn't quite realize all the names until Val Lewton, and I like had this moment of, why do I know this?
Yeah.
And then I was like, the Luton bus. Why do I know? What is the Luton bus? Like, it was like words in my brain that I didn't know what it was.
Yeah.
And then it all connected. And I was like, that's really funny for us, especially on this podcast, because we've talked about the connections between cat people. And so funny that we picked that movie because I think I picked that movie for.
It wasn't purposeful, but
It
we
wasn't.
did talk about Final Destination during Cat People.
So funny.
Yeah.
So random how things
Yeah.
are connected.
I love it.
Like Final Destination.
Anyway. All right. How is this movie millennial, and did it impact our generation as a whole?
Okay. So yes and yes.
Yes, and yes.
Yes and yes, because it was just it came out it was like perfect age range for like going to the movies with your friends to get scared and watch on like a Halloween. There was a ton of those horror movies, those teen horror movies that came out at the same time.
Century, 20th into 21st. It was just this influx of amazing movies for teenage audiences specifically.
Yes.
It was out of this world. Yep.
So I think it definitely, and I have seen today like memes and stuff for like millennials that's like, if you move your car over when you see a logging truck, which I think is Final Destination 2, then you have been haunted by Final Destination. Like it is stuck in your brain. And to this day, I cannot drive past a logging truck without thinking of this movie.
Same. The other thing, and again, it's from Final Destination 2, it's the water bottles getting stuck underneath the brake pedal so that you can't stop the car.
Yep.
That freaked me.
Honestly, I did not know where that fear of mine came from, and it must have
come from Final Destination. That I know that was a scene. Yeah.
So I think it is very relevant, and I think not only is it relevant, but it's like you said, it's making a comeback. It's still around. It's still
going. That franchise is still going. The last one, it's been a few years, I feel like, since, unless there's a new one coming out. But I remember the newest one was called The Final Destination. Like they just
nope. That was so. It goes Final Destination, Final Destination 2 in 2003, Final Destination 3 in 2006, The Final Destination in 2009, which is, so that's number 4.
Okay.
Then Final Destination 5
Great.
And this is very much Fast and the Furious esque.
So
Um,
much.
That came out in 2011,
Mhm.
and I swear that I thought there was there's an Untitled 6 movie that's in pre-production. Like
Okay.
I think you know what, we're due. When was the last one?
We
11.
are due, but I
Oh,
wonder if
that was
they're
11 years later.
yeah. Well, that's what I was just gonna say is I feel like they're gonna try to pull in the next generation, the Gen Z
Oh, maybe.
audiences, which I think that they are totally ripe for this concept.
Yeah, I wonder if like they could. Oh, you know what they should do?
Hmm.
They should make it a oh, what's the term for the like the internet movies?
Oh, not found footage.
Yeah, I guess found footage, but like the face, missing.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Searching.
Be
is what
like
you're- yeah.
searching, that's what it was.
Yeah.
Where it could be like, I don't know if they could do that, but I bring in basically social media somehow.
Yep.
That
Internet
would be
era
interesting.
Internet
Yeah.
era final destination
Yeah.
is probably a very interesting concept. Yeah.
Hmm.
Hmm. Hmm. I might need to watch the rest of this franchise. See
Too.
what's going on with it. See how it's doing. Boom, we fixed it.
Okay. The fixes, they actually, I think they made they fixed things while they were filming.
Okay.
So one of the things they did is Sean William Scott, is that his name, right?
Yep.
Sean William, he like hurt his lip in filming. So the reason why he got elbowed in the car and he started to bleed is because they couldn't fix this busted lip or whatever was going on
Mhm.
beforehand. So they added that into the film. So it was
Mhm.
like that was an easy fix and honestly relatable that he was kind of a hot-tempered guy and he was trying, you know what I mean? Like that
Yep.
would happen. However, I think the best fix they made was I think they had like a test audience or even just in the director's room or whatever, is the death of Terry. Was that the other girl's name?
Yes.
The death of Terry was out of all of them was very much a shock because it was
Oh, she's the one
literally
who gets hit by the bus, right?
yes, which
Yeah.
I think it should have been more appropriate that the person named Val Luton got hit by a bus, but
I know,
that's
right?
just you should have just switched names, but whatever.
Yeah.
But after that scene, you see like I think it was either Devin or Allie like taking some Alka-Seltzer and sitting down and having there was a pause in like the action of the movie
Mhm.
and they didn't rush into a conversation or something. They had to add just those couple of seconds or so like this like zoom in on the Alka-Seltzer was because people needed to process
Yeah.
because it happened so quick. It was so unexpected. You were sitting there being like, what just happened?
Yeah.
You needed those seconds to just think to yourself and process.
Yep.
And they went back and added that just so you had a couple of seconds to be like, holy,
So here's the thing about horror is the makers of horror are just a different breed than other filmmakers because they have to pivot, they have to adapt, they have to be scrappy. I mean, those are tiny little examples that I'm sure, every movie has those types
I'm
of
sure.
edits and
I'm sure.
fixes. But they just, instead of making a big fuss trying to add a bunch of makeup to Sean William Scott's face or whatever, oh, okay, just have him get an elbow, whatever.
Right.
Moving on. Like horror filmmakers are scrappier. And I love it. I love it. They have to make do with what they have. That's it.
I want to say it's because, and I don't know if that's true anymore. I want to say before they weren't blockbusters. So they didn't have the money that necessarily that other films did. So they had to be that way to make.
Yeah, there have always been standouts, like the occasional horror in the mainstream, but they've always been few and far between. And otherwise, yeah, they're not given gigantic budgets. And even when they are, I mean, we all know the infamous Jaws, problems that they had,
Yeah.
and they had to adapt for that.
That's
That's
very
a horror
true.
movie, and they
Yep.
had a huge budget for that. Or maybe
Yeah,
not
that's
a
true.
huge budget, but it's Jaws. They
Yeah,
had
yeah.
a budget for it.
They did. Yeah.
So yeah, it's just they know to pivot. They know how to
Yep.
pivot. Did you have anything else that we haven't talked about yet? Oh, sorry. Music.
Yep. That was my.
John Denver.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
I never would have thought that John Denver would have played such a big role in this movie. And I understand why, because he died in a plane crash. I get it. I'm a little surprised that his estate was okay with them like leaning so heavily into John Denver music and like it being a recurring trigger in this movie, but whatever. It was effective.
When did he die?
That's a good question, actually. He died in 1997.
What?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. 3 years had passed.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Okay, then I have no excuse. I have no, because my original thought was, okay, maybe it's been far enough along where it's okay to kind of joke at it, I guess.
It wasn't.
And
they weren't joking. It wasn't a joke, but
No,
it was
I'm sorry.
just the fact that it was featured in a fiction.
Yeah, kind of
For
poor taste, I guess.
Poor taste. Yeah.
And then my other explanation, which I still think is not good enough, is that I was like, okay, maybe they were like, well, maybe this is a new generation that will like John Denver music, because I know my mom, like I grew up with it because my mom loved it. But
Okay, fair.
I didn't realize that he died so
late.
Yeah. So yeah, no idea. That I don't know.
Any other notes?
There are comic books of this.
Okay, not surprised.
And this is more of just a it's not a fun fact. It's everyone should know.
Mm-hmm.
You never pull the knife out. You never pull the knife out of a victim.
Oh my God. The second he walked into that room, I was like, so help me God if he touches that knife. And sure enough, and I was like,
not only like should you not do it because now he's got his prints on this knife but to save her, anything that you have stuck in you is actually acting as a clotting mechanism.
Right. And that was actually my reaction when she initially got a piece of glass
she pulled it out of
her neck.
Yeah.
And she pulled it out. I was like, don't pull it out.
No,
I was so mad at her.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Everything about her death, I was mad about.
Yeah.
Because
hers was probably the worst, because it like there were so many things and
so many things. I would argue that Todd. All right, let's rank the deaths here.
Here we go. Yep.
Because Todd's was the one that got me the most, actually, because he had there was a lot of time there where he just couldn't do anything. He was just stuck. And I at that point, I really liked Todd. I had warmed up to his character and everything. His was arguably the worst death for me.
Yep. And I think what made it the worst is that they were like, oh, and he killed himself because he was so sad because his brother died.
Right.
And I was like, that's so tragic. That is so. And as soon as I was like, because I didn't remember how he died. I was like, all right, they're going to get him. How are they going to get him? And then I was like, no, not this. And as it was happening, I'm like, this is so bad. This is so bad because it looks so bad.
It was very effective. Like you felt it. You felt that thing around your neck. Oh God, it was very effective.
It was bad. It was bad. And there was like you said, there were so many will this get him? No. Will this get him?
Right.
No. And then when it happened, and then he was so close to the scissors, and he was trying to, all he had to do was stand up, but the shampoo,
he couldn't because there was so much soap under his feet. Oh my God, it was horrible.
It was horrible.
But Val Lewton's death, you're right.
That was almost ridiculous. It
was almost over the top.
It took Todd's to the nth degree. You were like,
yes,
this is crazy.
And then the bus was effective. Like you said, it comes out of nowhere. I mean, I almost feel like I expected it because because it was a moment of calm, you knew that there was a jump about to come.
Yeah.
And because he saw the bus, you knew the bus was going to be it. But
I think, isn't that the part
still
that's in
was-
like Scary Movie?
yes.
And I think they
But-
did it in Mean Girls.
I was going to say they did it in Mean Girls too. So you're
Yeah.
kind of starting to expect a
Yeah.
bus. Like if you are standing in the middle of the road, a bus is going to hit you. I don't know
Right.
why it's a bus specifically, but
I I would be curious to do the research to see if this was the first one.
yeah. Yeah. Well, and I mean, it, like you said, little disappointed that wasn't Val Lewton who got hit by the bus.
Yeah.
But the idea of a bus as a jump scare is from the 50s in Cat People. We
Yep.
know that that's the first time that's happened,
Yep.
except that in that case, it was a false jump.
Yep.
This was a real jump.
Yep.
But yeah, yep. All right. And then, so that was Terry's death. And then the only other death was at the very end, right?
No, Hitchcock
Oh,
died by the train.
Oh.
The train. It was that like
I
decapitated.
I didn't like that one. That
No.
one felt campy to me.
I thought he was gonna get sucked into the train, which is, you know how like you're not supposed to stand so close to the train because you do. There's that.
There's like a,
you know,
a suction.
a
with the
suction.
air.
There is a suction with the air, and I thought that was gonna happen because he was having that argument and he kept like walking backwards,
You
and I
could
was
tell,
like,
the way he was
I-
standing in front of the train, you're like, oh, something's gonna happen, dude.
yeah.
Yeah.
But in retrospect, they did kind of like when it hit the car, there was that one piece of metal that like shook. You know what I mean? Like
Mhm.
it was like it. Yeah.
Oh,
was
it made
there.
it
It
made
made
sense.
sense,
But
but
still, just it was the most B movie moment of the entire movie to me. It just didn't. It didn't work for me. The
Yeah.
actual decapitation, which is too bad.
Yeah.
But because I love a good decapitation.
yeah.
and then the last one was Carter.
Again, and I think that was over the top too. Although I liked when she screamed and he almost got hit by the car or bus or whatever it was again.
The fact that he jumped back up so quickly, I'm like, oh, he's about to die. Like you could see, like I feel like I saw it coming a mile away because you're like, when you push somebody over in a movie, when you push somebody over to save their life, you stayed down with them, but he popped right back up. And I
Oh,
was
yeah.
like, oh, it's the backswing. The
Yep.
backswing is gonna come for him.
Backswing. Yep.
So yeah, I was so about that. Yeah, really, Todd and Val's were the two big ones. They were early on in the movie. They were effective. Yep. All right, good. We ranked.
Good job. I like
we
this.
ranked the deaths, and it's funny because now that I named them, there were not a lot of deaths.
No, well, it was the I think it was 5 people, right? Yeah. So it was
6 people.
Alex, Clear, the teacher Val, Terry. Oh yeah, you're right. Todd,
Carter.
and then Carter.
Yep. Would you, Martini Shaw? Would you recommend this movie?
I would.
would too.
I like the concept. I think especially with the new one coming out, you got to start somewhere.
Mhm. It is hard. There is violence and gore, so if it's not your cup of tea, then don't. I mean, the gore is not like
gore is
really over the top,
minimal.
but it's
No, I didn't think so.
yeah.
Like the blood spray was minimal compared to
But,
it wasn't a Tarantino.
I mean, you're watching people die. You're,
Yeah,
I mean, it's not like
yeah.
the camera's turning our way when somebody dies. You are watching people die. But if you are okay with that, then yeah, this is a good movie. I would watch. I would recommend this movie. Yeah. All right. Cool. All right. It's time for the next movie. It was gonna be a Serena pick, and we were gonna end with my pick, but I think we're gonna flip it around. I will say my pick. So I narrowed it down to 3 movies, and
Okay.
figured we could
Discuss.
pick.
Okay.
Yeah. So I was going for classic millennial classics. So my 3 choices
This
are,
is I'm very intrigued to see what you have narrowed down of all the millennial movies as your top 3.
well, bear in mind these are also personal favorites. of
Okay.
mine.
All right. Okay. All right.
So Empire Records.
Classic. Save the
Teenage-
Empire.
Yep. Damn the Man, Save the Empire. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles,
Really?
the live action 90s version.
With Casey?
Heck yeah. Loved me some Casey. And then my third option was The Neverending Story. Of those three, which ones should we do? They're all classics for different reasons.
I would actually, I would say no to Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Okay.
The reason I think is I don't think it has quite the cult following, and although I was going to say not a lot of, I feel like out of all of those, that's the one that people haven't really seen. But if that's the point you want to make, where you think that this is a classic millennial movie that shouldn't fall into obscurity, that people should watch, then we should watch that one. If you want to just really watch one that I think has.
No, I think we should go with the one that influenced our generation the most, which arguably might be Empire Records.
No, you think so? More than Neverending Story?
I don't know. I really feel like they were two different eras of the same generation, so it's hard to compare them.
I like Empire Records, but I definitely think of that with like Can't Hardly Wait, That Thing You Do. I know that's not quite. Basically, I'm just naming Ethan Embry movies.
Ethan Randall. I think he was still Ethan Randall in that moment.
Oh, apologies. It's your pick, your choice.
Oh God, I don't know. I'll regret it. We're doing Neverending Story. I'll regret it if we don't do it.
Okay.
That's what I have to go with. I'm so sorry.
Fine. Nope. I understand. I understand the reasons.
Have an adult beverage with you. It's just the way to do it. Thanks for joining us. If you like what you hear, you can find more great episodes over on our website, www.millennialsofthemoviehouse.com, or wherever you find your podcasts. Curious about updates, extras from our episodes, or want to add your 2 cents about a reviewed movie? We're also on Twitter and Instagram. Our handle for both is @themoviemillies. Check us out and make sure to follow us. So until next time,
we're millennials, and we'll see you at the movie house.